Hello, Internet. It's your boy Brodigan, and welcome to episode 2 of the EveryJoe podcast, hashtag EJPC, your political safe space.
Of this season.
Of this season, yes, episode 2 of this season. Season 2, episode 2.
We've got other episodes you can go watch.
So we're actually at the point where after following the 2016 election for about 87 years, we're getting close to where people are actually going to start voting, and we're going to find out if the big question is that the fundamentals of campaigning still matter, or if the whole world has gone insane and Donald Trump's going to become the next leader of the free world. To discuss this and break everything down, we are thrilled to have with us. Generally, when you hear liberals complaining, they always say that, oh well, conservatives, they just blindly follow Rush Limbaugh or blindly follow Mark Levin. Truth of the matter is, for the past 7 or 8 years, we've been blindly following our special guest this week. The former head of Red State just started The Resurgent at theresurgent.com, and he's live on the scene from Des Moines, Iowa. Erick Erickson, welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Lord and Master.
And of course, our Boston Peerless leader, through whom all things are possible, political director of EveryJoe Politics, and I completely lost my analogy.
Oh no, you lost your analogy this week?
Okay.
Find the milk carton.
The David Grohl to our current rock scene.
The David Brock of EveryJoe Politics.
That works.
Yeah, I'll take it.
We'll go with that. Okay, just before we get to talk about the debate and the fact that people can actually start voting next Tuesday, as of 4:16 on Thursday, Real Clear Politics that has Trump at 33%, Ted Cruz at 26%, and Marco Rubio at 14%. However, the last two big Iowa polls that came out seem to have Cruz dropping a little bit and Rubio rising a little bit. Which we'll get to the actual caucus in a while. But I guess, Erick, we'll start with you. Is Trump going to show up tonight?
You know, there are still rumors that he's going to show up at the Fox debate. I don't think they're going to leave a space for him, given some of his shots at Megyn Kelly in the last 12 hours. He probably won't. Although the interesting thing is he's going to be over at Drake University. Santorum and Huckabee are going to join him. But reporters who went over and looked at the space said he's actually in a smaller space in the media room where I am now. It's about half the size of where I am. So not a lot of space for a lot of people. Maybe you could fit in 100 people. No press is going to be allowed. The press are going to have to be in an overflow room to be able to watch it. And a lot of the press aren't going. They're going to stay at the debate.
You know, there was an interesting article written by Emily Zanotti about Trump and why he's not showing up. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's because he's afraid of Megyn Kelly, which I can totally believe. But also, Emily mentioned that might not be the case. There's really nothing to lose for Trump in terms of publicity for going one-on-one with Megyn Kelly and having an exchange with her. It would be ratings galore. Anytime he opens his mouth and says something sensationalist, his points go up. Her theory is he's not afraid of Megyn Kelly. He's afraid of Trump. Cruz. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there is some merit to that. Yeah, I've been one of the people saying he's afraid of Megyn Kelly because he knows she would pull out more of his old statements. And that's what set him off. I mean, if we go back to the original debate in August of last year, all she asked him was, you've called women pigs and other derogatory names. And he conceded it was more than just Rosie O'Donnell, and then got mad at her for asking about his prior statements. She would certainly go after his prior statements. But Cruz got the better of him at the last debate. It was the first time he had ever gone after Cruz, and Cruz got him tongue-tied. And people at that debate said, well, he got the better of Cruz in the New York values thing. Well, people in New York said that, but polling in Iowa suggests otherwise.
So you think that Cruz does kind of have a little bit of an edge on him there?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, the only person who really got Cruz in that last debate is Rubio, and that's going to be the thing we're going to watch tonight. Is I suspect we're going to see all of the other candidates pile on Ted Cruz for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get the surprising enough, there are actually other people running for president than Donald Trump, but there's one Erick, there's one thing I want to get your take on, because I know there's a meme going around right now about all the things that Trump supporters have been tweeting about Megyn Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And you see on Twitter, like the white nationalist party seem to be celebrating him, and I know you've commented a little bit about how you've been disgusted by it, and a lot of us have been disgusted by it. But I mean, there are some on our side and may have a point that how is holding like the fringe of Trump supporters any different than the liberals wanting to hold like the fringe of the whichever Tea Party rallies to the rest of us.
Well, I don't know that I would use the word fringe to describe the Trump supporters. When you look into the debate polling, or not the debate polling, the campaign polling, when you look at the social media feeds, it doesn't seem to be a fringe element of Trump supporters. It seems to be core supporters. And you should hold your core supporters responsible for things. And I'm still not convinced that a lot of these people are real. I'm still convinced it's a lot of people with multiple Twitter accounts who are dominating. It seems suspicious to me. Listen, I realize that 33% of Republicans the traditional rules of politics have been blown up by Donald Trump. It's that none of it really makes sense. The sound and the fury has not translated in any metric to boots on the ground, to voter registrations, to anything.
Yeah, most of his online or his game seems to be online. And I do think
where the reporters are.
Yeah. I think that there is something to be said for that. I haven't really seen much about Trump in my everyday life, just talking to people. In fact, most people seem disgusted with him, and for good reason. You've got, literal Nazi groups calling him glorious leader on their websites. So I think many people just kind of want to keep their distance from him. But, there is something to be said for the polling, which I think has people scared. But I don't know. Do you think that this might get people out to actually vote against him out of, just worry that maybe something is going to happen, or what?
I don't know that people are going to go to a caucus in Iowa to vote against someone. I think they're going to go vote for someone. But again, I mean, even the voter registration information released by the Iowa Secretary of State today doesn't seem to show an increase in registrations for Republicans. Not any way that we've seen in the past indicating a wave. Maybe they'll do same-day registrations, but I just got to believe. I was talking to a couple of reporters earlier, and we all agree creatures of habit tend to stick to their habits. And if you show up at an Iowa caucus, the odds are you're going to show up at an Iowa caucus. Polling shows Ted Cruz does very well with those people. If you've never been to an Iowa caucus before, you're probably not going to go to an Iowa caucus on Monday when it's snowing and windy, and those people tend to vote for Trump.
Right on. So, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, just because I want to get deeper into the caucus in a little bit, but tonight's debate, does anyone on that stage matter besides Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio?
Yes, Kasich, it pains me to say, matters because
Really?
Kasich is in second place in New Hampshire and can rebound out of this and solidify himself in New Hampshire, which ironically and perversely keeps the establishment from being able to consolidate around a more viable candidate like Rubio. All eyes do have to be on Rubio and Cruz more than anyone else. But yeah, I think Kasich definitely does matter. Bush, to a degree, does matter as well, to the extent he and Chris Christie can pull down the other candidates. Really, the one guy on stage, ironically, the two guys on stage who don't substantively matter tonight, Ben Carson and Rand Paul.
Yeah, what happened with Rand Paul? This guy, because when he first announced, he seems to. This is not the Rand Paul I was expecting to.
Right. Not me either. I was very encouraged by his candidacy early on, and he just kind of fell flat. His campaign is in disarray. I have heard repeatedly from people close to his campaign that the campaign manager and the chief strategist hate each other's guts. They've been fundraising off of him. There's a lot of disarray, and his father hasn't rallied to his cause like people expected. There was a big profile a while back about how his dad had really shoved him aside in 2012 running then, and there's been some friction there since.
Yeah, I will say this though, and this might, I don't know if this would help Trump at all, but it did help Rand. I feel like when he disappeared from the stage, he refused to go on to the B Squad. His profile seemed to go up. He appeared on lots of different talk shows. I felt like his ground game just got a little better during that. Separating himself from the GOP seemed to help Rand. If Trump does, do you think it'll help Trump at all?
Listen, I mean, everyone who says that this is going to hurt Trump has been wrong. It's all help Trump. But I just think in this case, go back to last summer with Scott Walker. He hired Liz Mayer, and Iowa Republicans went absolutely apoplectic over her criticisms of the Iowa caucus and ethanol, forced him to fire her. They take their caucuses very seriously, or religious-like devotion to their caucuses. And you've got Donald Trump skipping the only debate to be held in Iowa in campaign 2016. It's 4 days before the Iowa caucuses. There are still a lot of undecided voters, and now they're not going to hear from him.
But I just touching on that for a little bit, because a lot of us don't understand the Trump phenomenon, and I don't think we're ever going to. But some people have been saying it's like, well, it's because of people's disinterest, and you see this on the Democrat side also, disinterest with, like, what the establishment has done, and have basically made promises that they haven't kept. And I think when you mention like someone like Liz Mayer being thrown off the Warkey campaign, because of her views on ethanol, when even though you see Donald Trump supporting ethanol, they don't seem to care.
Right.
When you have people who claim that Jeb Bush is disqualified because he gave Hillary Clinton an award, when Donald Trump not only gave her tens of thousands of campaign donations, he invited her to her wedding and had a long conversation with her husband.
Right.
Prior
and
to
calls them friends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of us who agree that, I've been fighting against the establishment, but because of that, we've been rallying around for the past 8 years candidates like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and Nikki Haley and Scott Walker and Rick Perry and Bobby Jindal and guys like that. And with the exception of Cruz, at every point in time, you've had Trump supporters calling all of them the rhinos, and Trump's the one who's going to stand up to the establishment. What planet are we living on?
Craplakistan. Listen, I think that there's a lot of polling out there that suggests Donald Trump's voters aren't actually Republican voters. They're radical moderates, if you will. A rebuilding of Ross Perot's coalition, which ironically Trump thought about running for in 2000 when he didn't like Bush. These are not normal Republican voters. And I wonder if there's more sound than there actual is people. Is the sound and fury overriding the fact that there really isn't this massive wave of people? Certainly when you call and you poll people and you say, oh, a third of people like Trump, okay, but do these people actually go vote? That's one thing that no one wants to talk about. Most of the polling has been of 300 or 400 people nationwide trying to identify Trump supporters. Margins of error are 4 and 5%. And then they're registered voters. They're not likely voters. There are huge differences between all adults, registered voters, and likely voters. And the pollsters have been wanting to generate a story more than they've wanted to generate accurate pictures of what's happening.
Yeah. I read not long ago about some research done on this, and apparently only 30% of Trump's online support was even eligible to vote.
Right.
So, it kind of, it makes you wonder if there is more sound and fury than there actually is anything solid.
All be people with the last name Patel working in a call center in Mumbai. It could happen. He's got the money. Just ask him.
No, it's true.
I mean, the fact that we're not sure whether sport's coming with the eligible to vote. I do some boxing and kickboxing training, and for the most part, it's the only like real people outside of like our universe that I talk to, and a lot of them are Trump supporters. Not the Trump supporters we've been talking about. They're actually just people who like what he has to say, and I just want to make that clear because they could all kick my ass and probably will after they watch this when I go training on Saturday. But I mean, go with your point about how they're not registered Republicans. I mean, I had to explain to them about how you have to be registered, like in New York, it's like they have to be registered Republican by a certain time in order to vote in April.
Right.
Me as a Marco Rubio supporter and a blogger and someone who works a little in the business should not be doing the work for the Trump campaign.
Right. Well, I mean, look in Iowa. You had the Monmouth University poll that came out just yesterday showing that 45% of people who say they're likely to go to the caucuses have been contacted by a campaign. 25% by the Cruz campaign, 18% said the Rubio campaign, only 13% said the Trump campaign. If you talk to the Bush campaign, the Cruz campaign, the Rubio campaign, the Carson campaign, they all say they have yet to encounter Trump paid volunteer or paid activists on the ground in Iowa going door to door. It is a rare sighting in Iowa to find campaign operatives for Trump. So either Donald Trump is able to now go into a phase of politics where people can come to huge rallies and disperse and show up, or traditional door-to-door politics still happens. And if traditional door-to-door politics still happens, he's not going to have a good night on Monday.
So again, like we said, we began the show. You're actually in Iowa right now. I mean, as far as like Monday or Tuesday go, is it Monday or Tuesday?
It's Monday.
Monday. Okay.
That's the other thing. It's going to be on a Monday night. People think of elections on Tuesdays.
case in point, up until you said that, I thought it was Tuesday because I don't look at calendars anymore. Okay, so Monday. Well, I mean, what are you hearing like now that we're getting into like the final 72 hours?
Well, the Cruz metrics are still holding for him. He's gone down some, but it depends on a range. I talked to some of the people close to the Cruz campaign. They said they have a range of voters. If it's the traditional voters, they win. If the traditional voters and some new influx of voters, they win. If it's dominated by new voters, they lose. And they're keeping their metrics good. The Cruz campaign and a lot of reporters are suggesting he may be having a late-breaking surge as people tire of the front two. Typically in Iowa, the third place guy does very well when the first two start beating each other up. But then you got to remember, it is going to be 7 p.m. on a Monday night. You have to be in the room, registered, signed up, and ready to participate by 7 p.m. It is not at your standard precinct. When you go to a primary, you always know where to go vote. I go to a local church down the street from me. The caucus isn't necessarily going to be at that location. So if a Trump supporter doesn't know, shows up at the primary location, and then can't make it to the caucus by 7 p.m., they're shut out.
Okay. I could go with that.
Although some wishful thinking.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a cheap shot, but hey.
Yeah, but I mean,
seriously,
people who are non-traditional voters tend to know, okay, this is where I go vote in the general election, so therefore this must be where I go for my caucus.
Right.
And that's not true in Iowa. In most cases, you don't go to your primary precinct where you vote. You go someplace else because you need a larger room. And then it's not one of those places where you can just go in, check a ballot, and leave. You got to sit there for an hour listening to sales pitches essentially from the candidates. So you got to arrange childcare to be able to go. You got to get out knowing that the bad weather is coming. So the people who go to caucuses, they're a hardy breed of people. Caucuses tend to have a lower turnout than primaries as a result, but the people who do go tend to always go.
Right.
And just because we're going to get ready to wrap up in a little bit, but I want to make sure Eric, you had plenty of time. What is the resurgent.com? Tell us about it.
So, I was at Red State for 11 years, editor for 10 years, and I really wanted to go out since I didn't own Red State and wanted to go start my own site where I control all the pixels. I don't have to worry about the standard advertising that you see on a lot of conservative sites that just pains me to have to run ad blockers to go to my own site. So started a new site with a different ad model where a group sponsors the site for the whole week. So you only have 2 ads on the whole site. It's easy to use on your cell phone. To use Trump vernacular, it's gorgeous, huge. Look at it on your cell phone. Try to print a page. The print template, unbelievable. You'll never see such a great thing. And it's something I'm really proud of. I can integrate it into my radio show long term as my radio presence keeps growing. It'll be the landing page for my radio show. And I've just kind of got a long runway to build towards national syndication, and the resurgence is a key part of it.
That's awesome. We're going to miss you at Red State. I was at the last Red State gathering, and
I'll be at the next one.
Oh, will you?
Yeah,
good.
In Denver.
It won't be this. It will never be Red State without Erick Erickson, I think. We had an absolute blast. We got to spend some time together to watch the first debate while we were in Georgia, and I always have a great time when you're around, man. So.
Well, when I start rolling out these resurgent get-togethers, I'll let you know. I'll come your way.
There. I will be there.
Actually, the Red State Gathering just reminded me that as soon as this hits Twitter and people realize, hey, wait a second, we're interviewing the same Erick Erickson who originally uninvited Donald Trump, I'm already writing my mentions column.
Yes.
Okay.
That was an amazing time. The world exploded and we were at ground zero.
Yes, very much so. Yep.
It was awesome.
I still got some shrapnel in my back.
It literally exploded about 20 minutes after I decided I was going to go to bed. I decided, all right, everyone's like winding down, reporters sitting around the table. I think I went back to my room and 15 minutes later, Eric walks down and says, "Oh, by the way, I just got off the phone with Trump's campaign manager. He's not coming anymore."
Yep.
I'm never there when I need to be.
Time.
Okay, last question. I want to go around table for this. Predictions Monday.
I called it this morning at the Resurgent. I think it's going to be Cruz, Rubio, Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon?
I actually kind of agree with that. Rubio does bring a really strong game whenever he does go to these debates. I'm really impressed with him. In fact, I think he's won most of them in my opinion. But I really think that Cruz, he's got a little momentum going right now. He has something to lose, and he's going to want to bring his A game. So I'm kind of thinking it'll be Cruz coming out on top, Rubio because he's always a strong finisher, and Trump because he's a jackass.
Okay. Well, I mean, this makes a boring end segment because I actually agree with the two of you. But I'm going to go Trump 1, Cruz 2, and Rubio 3 because I want Cruz and Rubio to finish better than expected. Okay, well, Eric, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our EveryJoes tuning in. For Eric, for Brandon, for mega producer Aaron behind the scenes on his shiny new computer that we're happy to have.
Yeah.
This has been another post-pounding, exciting Rock'em Sock'em episode of the EveryJoe podcast, EveryJoe.com, #EJPC. We will see you sometime next week where we make sense of what the heck happened in Iowa. Take care.
Thanks, guys.